Hey guys, it's Alex from 7th Hour Films, back again with the Sarah Jane Adventures. Hey, it's been a little while, hasn't it? We took a little break between Season 3 and 4 so that we could fit in the end of Torchwood, but we're back, and this time we have the combination. That's a little Spaceballs for you. What the hell happened last time? I don't remember, actually. I don't remember what the last episode... Oh, it was the Blatherine, wasn't it? Alright, let me look. It's been a long time since Sarah Jane. A long time. Yeah, it was The Gift. That's the last episode we had. Yeah, The Gift, where the Blatherine came down. And they were like, we're not evil. And it's like, we're evil. And it's like, alright. And then they died. And that was that. Which was okay. And yeah, now we're back. Yeah. So, just a quick thing I want to mention. Scheduling is going to be a little weird for a little bit. Sarah Jane, we're just kind of fitting in when we can. So, this week we have, this episode, the one you're watching right now of Sarah Jane. Next week we won't have an episode of Sarah Jane because we're going to have 2 episodes of Doctor Who. And then the next week we will have 2 episodes of Sarah Jane. And then I think 1 episode and then a 1 or 2 week break and then the rest of the show, I think. A little confusing, a little weird, but just keep an eye on your sub box. Maybe hit that bell for notifications. And you'll find it when I post it, basically. Just stay up to date on when these Sarah Jane episodes are going out. So, yeah. That's basically that. This is where I say no spoilers. Just don't. And, also, because this is the first episode, you can go on to my Patreon in the link below in the description or the pinned comment if I remember to do that, which probably I won't. I always forget to do that, but you can watch the full-length, unedited reaction of this episode for free. So yeah, head down over to my Patreon. You can just go, you can find it, and you can watch this first episode, unedited, completely free. There's not any show footage, you have to bring your own, and then just sync it up and you're fine. And yeah, and this is obviously, you get full length for both part 1 and part 2 of this episode, because that's how Sarah Jane works. So, yeah. Yeah, so if you want to do that, if you want to try out full length, you can head down over to my Patreon and you will find the full length of this episode. And if you like that, you can consider supporting me on Patreon with the full length tier. Or early access if you want to do that. Or power polls. Power polls don't get you early access or full length, and early access doesn't get you full length. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about stuff, but that's beside the point. Just, if you want to pledge, then pledge. If you don't want to, you don't have to. If you can't afford it, then don't. But yeah. Let's just get into this. Here we go.
13 Bannerman Road is where Sarah Jane Smith lives. And it's home to things.
Whoa, what the hell are all these? Oh, preview of the season, I guess. There was a giant chicken.
Ready? Always.
I guess. Moan!
The world's gonna end, and it's my fault.
What'd you do this time? Oh, I don't like this.
Mom, I'm sorry.
Ah! Jeez. Oh, I hate this already.
It's why he thinks I could get into Oxford. He says I could go to university a year early. Mum?
Oh, cool.
I think now's the time to be telling me this.
Yeah. Where's your Sonic lipstick?
Not again.
Yeah. Ah. It's gotten gooier.
Bomb neutralized, mistress.
Thanks, K9. So we're starting off with murder. Hooray.
Mum.
So yes, Luke, I think you should go.
Alright, cool. Results day. This is weird. Is this like freaking The Last Santoran when we got rid of when we got rid of Maria.
Luke needs to get used to us not being around.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Are you even gonna miss me?
Well, yeah.
You want me to pack and get new clothes, and it's like you can't wait for me to go.
That's not what it's like at all. I mean, I get it. He needs to sort some of this out. Car talk.
He will be gone soon.
Oh, come on, I can't wait. Luke was the biggest mistake of my life.
Yeah. You know that's not true. Search your feelings, Luke.
I had a nightmare last night.
What? I thought you couldn't dream.
Neither did I. The
Oh
brain
yeah,
didn't
that is a thing.
wake up. I'll be coming back. Who says we won't be back?
Really? It's these friggin' nightmares. They're like horribly unrealistic. Putting the loser thing up.
And yours are just beautiful.
Kick him! Dream kick him! Oh god, it's like Pennywise.
I didn't get much sleep. I had a nightmare.
What?
I had one Monday as well.
Right. Mr. Smith, I need you.
Yeah.
He's been having dreams.
I thought Luke didn't dream.
That's why I'm asking you to scan him.
Yeah, that's the
Do you
problem.
require everything to be pointed out to you, Mr. Smith?
Damn. I forgot about their shade. Where are the lights? Oh, okay. The surprise party. I thought it was demons.
Did you do this?
Alien demons.
And you don't want like a hug or anything.
Come on, hug.
So was this your idea?
Huh.
She's cool, isn't she?
Yeah.
You should go and dance with her. What?
Huh.
Ronnie! Clive wants to show you his moves!
Man, Luke. Heh. We're not cool anymore. There will be no hugs. Ah, balloons. Ah! Kick him. He can't.
Say my name, you can't tell anyone about me.
He can't
I'm in
name
your
it.
head, Luke.
Power in the name. Now.
This is the attic.
Ah, a new kid.
No.
Oh my gosh, such anxiety about this. He really does need to talk to Maria, because Maria left. She didn't go through this. We never forgot about her.
Where are you from?
What?
Tuh.
What planet are you from?
Yeah, alien.
I'm from nowhere.
Oh.
I'm supposed to be going out there and
This
living
is-
my life.
This is
not
when
gonna
he
happen.
recorded it. Ah. Great. He's real. Mr. Smith, K9. Do something.
No! I'm gonna stop you!
And that's part 1. Alrighty. Ow. Alrighty. Well, let's get going to part 2. This friggin' lanky dude. Getting some Caligari vibes off this guy. Like his body movement.
Oh, catch it.
Oh. No. No nightmares.
Watching the BBC News. No, go ahead. Switch me off.
Oh. This is her nightmare? Ah! This is what she has nightmares about? Evil news anchors? That he works at a restaurant?
He's the Nightmare Man, and I can't stop him. Mum, I'm sorry. That's why I'm trying so hard to stay awake.
Huh. Alright, well, she knows everything at least.
No.
I always knew you were a stupid boy.
What the?
Sarah Jane? We've got to find
Really
a way to
elderly
talk
Sarah
to him.
Jane.
Clyde? Ronnie? Ronnie? Ronnie?
Oh gosh, so
Clyde, come on!
now it's all on Sarah Jane, which I kind of like.
Ronnie!
We don't often get it where it's just kind of her solving the problems.
We're going to tell everyone who she is.
We're gonna destroy Sarah James.
Well, why? Dang it, bringing nightmares. You can't add any logic to nightmares. This sucks.
Correct, Mr. Smith.
It's just me.
Well,
Negative, Master Luke. It is never just you.
yay.
How did you get here? Did Mum send you?
Affirmative. She wanted me to tell you that this is a dream and that you need to wake up.
Well, thanks.
K9, I've tried.
She has given me a better life. She's my
Well.
friend. Grow up. If you're going to be a journalist, you've got to stop worrying about people's feelings.
Don't you want to be a journalist?
Not like that.
Yes?
I mean, he's not doing anything. He's just walking around like some asshole. Oh no, he's doing something. I stand corrected. Yeah, he's going for everyone else now.
Maybe they are as well. Clyde?
Oh, like they're all connected? That'd be interesting, actually.
Ronald! Breaking news. I'm out of here.
That's right. Fuck you. Alright, good.
Come on!
Come on, Clyde.
I quit.
That's right. Fuck you, evil Sarah Jane.
About what might happen to him. I've had dreams about the doctor when he never came back and you thought he was dead. Oh,
Huh.
they were good.
She's anything like
I'm
the
not
doctor,
scaring you.
then she is the nightmare.
What's wrong? Not used to someone arguing back?
Huh!
What's the
Yeah.
matter if you're so strong? Still together, even in their dreams. And that's what's hurting you.
To be scared, he needs to be alone.
Damn it.
We'll be alone
That didn't work.
forever.
You know, I was so scared because I thought my mates wouldn't be there for me. Never mind Oxford, they followed me into my nightmares.
Tuh.
3 kids breaking down the walls of dreams to be together.
Yeah.
Something no one's ever done before.
He's right.
Yeah, walk away.
Because together, we stop the monsters.
We stop the nightmares.
Ah!
Because when we're together, we're not scared. You've got no hold
The power of friendship.
Because we're brilliant. Saves the world yet again.
Yeah. Throw him into his nightmares.
And I'll tell you all about my brilliant son.
No.
Huh.
His name's Luke Smith. And he's going to live happily ever after.
Tuh.
You did it.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Power of friendship.
Now let's get out of here.
A metal dog looking after me. But you see, he's my son. And he's going off on a big
Oh.
new adventure. So are you.
Aw.
I will look after him.
We're losing K9 too?
You were adequate company.
What a dick.
You could always contact me if you need to.
I knew you would miss me.
Goodbye, K9.
Why does he have a shirt that says Texas?
Start of a brand new life. Lots of new adventures, new friends, new everything. Oh, I love you.
So we're really losing Luke.
Let's see what's out there.
Alon Z. Oh, man. Stop. There we go. Oh, God. That was close. Alright, that was the Nightmare Man. It's interesting. We always wait for a season premiere to drop a character. which we didn't do that. We didn't do that last season, but we did that with the beginning of season 2. It was our goodbye to Maria, and now we're saying goodbye to Luke. That's crazy, man. Alrighty. We're down another character. Now, here's the thing. Do we get a new character next episode, then? I don't know. At this point, that might be kind of weird. Like, because we went through all this stuff about, oh, Luke is afraid that he's going to be replaced by someone, a new son. And, yeah, but it's like, that's what we did last time. After Maria left, we got Ronnie, so I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, that was an interesting episode, and a pretty good send-off, I think, to Luke. Yeah, it was better than Last Sontaran, but definitely, like, yeah, that was good. That's basically what I can say. So let's go ahead and get into these notes. The first thing I wrote down was the Nightmare Man. Interesting villain. Interesting that he like feeds off of nightmares and stuff like that. I think it's a pretty standard concept, I would say. And his performance was pretty. It was a pretty standard villain, all things considered. Like, it was pretty standard writing, it was, I feed off of your fear and stuff like that. And, wasn't that the clown, too? Wasn't that the whole point? That it lived off of fear? Or I guess, specifically, this guy lives off nightmares. Yeah, and it's not just fears, it has to specifically be nightmares. Which is an interesting little twist on it, because nightmares are so just odd, it shows us like our deepest fears, even if we don't fully recognize them, because it's like our imagination, because dreams are already like our imagination runs wild, but when you add fear on top of that, it's just crazy. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting that it's specifically nightmares and not just fear. And, when they show everyone's nightmares, it does say a lot about them. Like, Luke was afraid of just being forgotten. Like, oh, everyone is glad that I'm leaving. Everyone is, ready for me to leave. They're tired of me, and they want me, they want to replace me, basically, which, again, still leads into, are we getting a new character? Are we getting a new character next episode? I would almost think at this point you shouldn't. Like, I think at this point you should just, I think you should just keep it at the 3 of them at this point. I'm going to write down one extra note here so I don't forget about it. So yeah, it was an interesting concept. But I think the strength of this episode comes more from the characters and how they, how they sort of react to their nightmares and like how they deal with their fears, basically, more than the villain. Because honestly, in hindsight, and I liked the villain. I did like the Nightmare Man. He was an interesting, he was a fun villain, but at the same time, he was a very standard villain. So the next thing I wrote down is Oxford. Basically just a reason to leave. They always have to make a reason to leave. So I imagine, it was sort of the same thing with that happened with Maria, where basically, like, they had to get the actor was ready to move on. In the case of Maria, the actress wanted to focus on her education and stuff like that. I will say it is a bit of a plus that with Luke leaving, they did it in a way that doesn't take more characters, with the exception of K9, which they didn't need to do that. But, when we lost Maria, we also lost Alan, and then we lost Chrissy, which I know, big loss. But we did lose her. We lost both of her parents as well as her, because they had to write in the reason, you know, because it's like, with the exception, there would have been no way to keep them around if Maria had left, you know? So that's the thing. Whereas this time around, they did come up with a good reason for Luke to be leaving without really writing out any other character, with the exception of K9, which I feel like with K9 that was sort of we just, like, maybe they ran out of ideas with K9, like, okay, well, we don't really have anything, like, maybe they even thought, like, okay, K9 is solving a lot of problems, which it's true he is, you know, just at the end there, not at the end, at the beginning there, when, you know, we had the 9 millionth Slitheen attack, which, oh my gosh, I'm getting tired of them now. But it's like, oh, here comes K9, and he just defuses the bomb, and that's that. It's like, it's become so, like, common. It's become, like, so common to just use K9 to sort of solve some of these problems that it's like, okay, I understand writing him out. So I guess you could think of K9 as sort of like a living sonic screwdriver, which I know that was the original reason why the sonic screwdriver was written out in classic Doctor Who, was because they thought that the sonic screwdriver just solved way too many problems. Now, my answer to that is, if you have something in your show that's, you know, solving too many of your problems, well, then you need better problems. You know, you need something more compelling. Like, if you just write this element of the show out, if you just get rid of it and be like, okay, now everything's going to be trickier, it's like, well, that's just frustrating, because it's like, it's almost like you're not taking these characters to the best of their abilities. Like, you know, it's like, oh, the Doctor could get out of this situation if he had his sonic screwdriver. Well, we better write out the sonic screwdriver so, you know, he can't just get out of the situation easy. It's like, well, that's not right. That shouldn't be a thing. You need to write a situation that really challenges the Doctor, even if he does have a sonic screwdriver, which is what I think the new series does very well. You know, the sonic screwdriver is not just the magic wand that, you know, it apparently was in the classics. K9, I will say, has been sort of a magic wand, though. K9, and now it's not too obvious. Like, he didn't even at the end here, he didn't really save the day, but there's a lot of stuff where they just sort of gloss over something, and it's not a big deal. It's not like, oh, well, K9 just goes and shoots the Nightmare Man, and that's it, and sorry, we're done. It's like, no, K9... It's like K9 is used properly and not used properly, and because of the times that K9 is not used properly, they just decided to write the character off. So, yeah. So, that's interesting that, you know, that's basically the only other character that's leaving with Luke. The whole thing with Luke leaving was interesting, I will say. You know, and going to Oxford, and it makes perfect sense that it's like, oh, well, he's gonna go to Oxford a year early because he's that good, he's that smart. So that makes sense. I wrote down coming through, you know, the Nightmare Man coming to our world. Again, sort of a standard concept. It's like, oh, well, it's because of you that I can now go into your world and stuff like that. It was pretty simple. And once he was out in our world, I will say he wasn't, I don't know, he really didn't do anything. He was just like, I'm gonna go around all weird like, and then he started to get into people's nightmares, and that's when the table started to turn for him. So yeah. It's like, again, he's not a very compelling villain. He was alright. He was fun, but you're really not, this episode was not focused, like, this episode didn't need him to be very compelling. Although, yeah, I do wish he was kind of compelling, so, I don't know. Alright. And then, all three of them got trapped in their nightmares. I was kind of hoping, I mean, I know this is Luke's swan song, basically. So Luke basically needs to be the one that that basically saves the day, even though, yes, they save the day together, and it's like, oh, our friendship is important. But there was a lot of Luke in this episode. However, I will say, one of the things that I'm starting to realize, something I'm starting to realize in Season 4, but something that is true about this series is that Sarah Jane doesn't do as much on this show as the Doctor does on Doctor Who. Like, because, this show is very similar to Doctor Who in the fact that we have this, sort of veteran time, space, and time traveler who is guiding their companion or companions, in Sarah Jane's case, guiding them and, going on adventures with them and stuff like that. But in this show, I feel like they focus more on the companions than they do on Sarah Jane. Whereas I would say on Doctor Who, it's pretty even, and generally, yes, the companion is very important, but the Doctor is very important. He's the main character. Kind of. Which I guess is the tricky part about it, is that, yes, the Doctor is the main character of Doctor Who, but his companion, honestly, is just as much of a main character. Whereas I feel like the kids in this, which they need to stop calling them kids. If they're seniors and if they're starting like senior year of high school, it's like, oh, Luke, he's starting college a year early. It's like, he's not a kid anymore then. Like, okay, maybe they're 17 or 18. I don't know, how old are you? How old are you when you're a senior in high school? I was 17, but I was a youngin'. Because my birthday is actually in July, I could have actually been held back a year at first. I could have started a year later on school, but my parents just didn't. So because of that, instead of being one of the older kids in my class, I was one of the youngest kids in my class. So, I graduated high school when I was 17, and everyone else was 18. So, but yeah, so if, and I don't know the schooling system, like how many grade levels there are in England, in London, but they have to be around that age. They should be, well, okay, I was about to say they should at least be 16 because Luke knows how to drive, but then again, I don't know the legal age for that in the UK either. So maybe you guys can fill me in on that in the comments. But yeah, so they're really not kids anymore. They're they're getting to be young adults basically. They're teenagers. They're not kids anymore. Yeah. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. But I feel like the three of them definitely, I almost feel like they get more screen time than Sarah Jane. Like, yes, Sarah Jane is there, Sarah Jane is important, and Sarah Jane saves the day a number of times. But I feel like the show mainly focuses on the three of them, and Sarah Jane is just sort of a guide. Almost like a guide on the side, but there are a bunch of episodes where Sarah Jane is prominently featured, or, some episodes where she comes in and saves the day. Mark of the Berserker comes to mind, where it's like, we go through all of this stuff and, no one really knows how to save Clyde and stuff like that. And then, at the end, Sarah Jane just comes in and does save the day. Because she hadn't been there the whole episode. She hadn't been there the whole episode, so Clyde, remembered her, and so she was able to save the day, basically. So she definitely gets her time to shine, I will say that, but I feel like they are the main characters, and she's a main character, obviously. It's called the Sarah Jane Adventures, for God's sake. and that's the thing, is in the title sequence it always says The Sarah Jane Adventures starring Elizabeth Sladen, but I feel like the show does focus more on them than on her, whereas on Doctor Who it's very even. Maybe there's a bit more on the Doctor because he is kind of the main character, but it is the Doctor and his companion, whereas on this show it feels like the companions and Sarah Jane, and it's like, I don't know. I guess that's a weird thing to sort of hang on, but it does definitely like feel like that. Like, okay, like, yeah, it's just odd. And so that's when, okay, so this is where the point came from. The point was when they actually got trapped in their nightmares, I was kind of hoping that, oh, is this an episode where Sarah Jane has to figure everything out on her own without them? Like, they're trapped, she has to go save them now. I was hoping that. But that ended up not really being the case. I mean, she did, like, communicate with them, communicate with Luke through K9, but then, then Luke figured out, wait, maybe we can meet up and be in the same dream, and we can stop him and stuff. So Luke basically saved the day. Maybe that's just it, is through all of Doctor Who that I'm watching, I feel like Sarah Jane doesn't get enough... I feel like she doesn't get enough screen time, which is so weird. And it's like, look, and I've seen a lot of the character through this show, and I know a lot about her, so I feel like if I went and watched Classic Who, I would be able to watch her and be like, oh yeah, totally, I understand where all this is coming from, because I've seen Sarah Jane, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that were, flipped on that, where they watched Classic Who, and then they watched Sarah Jane, and they were like, oh, I totally get this. I totally get everything about her, because I know Sarah Jane. But I almost feel like watching this in this order is maybe slightly a disadvantage, which, I can't really get around with these reactions, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing really, but I almost feel like while I know Sarah Jane, I've learned a lot about Sarah Jane, and I love the character, I feel like I would still be learning a lot about Sarah Jane if I went to the classics, whereas if I watch the classics first and then I watch the Sarah Jane Adventures, I would almost learn nothing more about Sarah Jane, because it's like, oh, well, it's all in the classics. Now, that being said, I haven't seen the classics, so I don't know if they go in so much on that, but it's like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's a hard point to try to get across. Maybe you can make sense of my ramblings. But yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. Now, and again, I haven't seen the classics, so I don't know if any of what I just said is valid. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go back and be like, oh yeah, well, I've learned so much about her, or if I've actually learned more here because they had the time, because she's the main character, kind of, because she's the title character at least, that, I've learned more about her. Definitely, like, because again, it's like, oh, well, she didn't have that many episodes to shine, but The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith does come to mind as, yes, that was a very Sarah Jane focused episode. We learned so much about her, seeing her parents and seeing the death of her parents, basically. And then it's like, okay, well, that's a lot to learn about Sarah Jane, and I don't know if that's necessarily presented in the classics, if any of that makes sense. Basically, I want more Sarah Jane. So, maybe instead of bringing in a new character to replace Luke, maybe some of the focus will shift onto Sarah Jane on this. Because that would be nice. Again, it's not like, in Doctor Who, we have the Doctor and we have a companion. I'd say, like, there's maybe like a 55% focus on the Doctor and a 45% focus on the companion. Pretty even, all things considered, but a bit of a lean on the Doctor because he is the main character. He's the title character. But with the Sarah Jane Adventures, I almost feel like it's... I don't know. I almost feel like it's like 40% on Sarah Jane and 60% on the kids. I don't even know if that math is any good, but still. Yeah. I wrote down the evil news anchor. That was just weird. It's like, I don't know what to get from that. Like, it's like, she is scared to be a journalist. You know, she wants to be a journalist, but she wants to do, well, I guess she wants to do good. She doesn't want to do bad by she doesn't want to do bad by being a journalist, which I understand. I also wrote down the sandwich shop. That one was clear as day as to what the meaning of that was. You know, Clyde is afraid that he will just be left behind. You know, you hear all these great things about Luke. Oh, he's working for the government. He's going to be an astronaut and stuff like that. And Clyde's just going to end up working at some burger joint, basically. You know, that's his fears, that his life won't amount to anything. I like that really elderly Sarah Jane kind of forgot about the doctor, because it's like, you know, how much of that was their actual nightmares and how much of that was imposed by the Nightmare Man, you know? So it's like, how much of that was imposed by the Nightmare Man? And so yeah, when it's like, I've been to space once, and Clyde's just like, yeah, I know, with the doctor. And she's like, oh, right, forgot about that. I don't know, that was weird. Connecting their dreams was interesting, and, you know, them fighting back against their nightmares, and then, you know, taking control. That was interesting. I wrote down the dimensions. So yeah, they kind of mentioned that in passing. It's like, oh, when you dream, your mind goes to another dimension. It's like, all right, if you say so. Now, did that mean specifically, hey, this is what the Nightmare Man does when he makes you dream? Or is it that, no, you do go to some other dimension, basically, when you dream, just in general? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, all right, it's just kind of odd, I guess. I wrote down Luke alone, which kind of, like, it's like, you know, it was kind of clever with the Nightmare Man thinking, oh, well, if I isolate Luke, then I win. Like, he can't function on his own, basically. Which, you know, he was starting to do that, and then Luke, you know, took control, and then they beat him. But I will say, it's like, yeah, what would happen if he was just alone? Because even there, he had Ronnie, he had Clyde. But I guess it was mostly that he was alone technically, and he took control, and then he got them back together, and then they won, I guess. I wrote down the power of friends, basically the power of their friendship that defeated the Nightmare Man and trapped him in Clyde's nightmare, which I thought was funny. And then K9, who is now leaving the show again, K9 who wasn't on the show, but then was good on the show for forever, but now he's leaving the show again. It's like, okay, you don't have to go to all that trouble, but we pretty much already talked about that. It's like, okay, I do kind of understand why they would write K9 off the show. And hey, if that's the only character that's going because Luke is leaving, that's all right. Because that was always the big thing with Maria. It's like, okay, well, we're not only losing Maria, but we're also losing Alan. But with Luke, it's really just Luke. So yeah. But good episode. It was a pretty good episode. Not the greatest villain, but he served his purpose, basically. And you're mostly there for the characters. So, yeah. Good episode, good season premiere, and I'll be excited to see where we go from here. So yeah, with all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of my Sarah Jane Adventures reactions, You can click on the playlist. You can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media. Links below in the description. See you guys later.